Hello, everyone. Welcome to this ITM platform training session. My name is Rene Alvarez, and I'm going to be your trainer for this session. Today's topic is going to be workflow, how we can control the project lifecycle inside ITM platform. I'm going to show you things like the project steps, authorizations, how you can configure the sequence, and a lot of interesting stuff, mainly for the project manager and the PMO alike. Yeah, this session is mainly for project managers, the PMO, and of course the system admin interested in configuring and maintaining ITM platform. Today's session will grant you 1 credit towards the ITM platform certification. If you want to get this certification, you will need to gather 10 credits. You can get those credits attending these training sessions. You can also get 1 credit for using ITM platform for a month, or you can get the certification directly if you attend one of our partners' training courses with a duration of 10 hours and above, okay? All right, so let's start with the topics for today. And as usual, I like to work directly in the tool, in the system. So let me go ahead and let me go there, right, to get started with this. I'm gonna sign in into our dev environment, and as usual, I'm going to use a full access license to properly show you everything, right? Let me close the rest, which is not relevant for this session. All right. So in terms of the workflow concepts, let me start with one that we already have in place in this demo environment. And later, I'm going to show you how to configure, how you can make changes. Okay, if I go to the management area and go to projects, I can open any project. And one of the key things that we need to understand this time is the use of this project status value, okay? When we create a new project, that project will have a value for project status. And during the project lifecycle, we will need to change the project status once in a while, right? Depending on how we are progressing through this project lifecycle. It is important that you define at some point what that project lifecycle will look like, because it can be different for each organization. You can define that as part of your project management processes. In ITM platform, then, we will track the current project status, and if needed, we can always ask for the history of changes when the project has changed, okay? To properly show you then, let me create a new one. I'm going to create a new project. It really doesn't matter if it's waterfall or agile. Let me create here a new sample project, okay? And the project status will need to be set as default, okay? In other words, I cannot change the value, the current value that is displayed in here. Don't worry about it. It will be handled by ITM platform. As a system admin, I'm going to be able to change it, right, to a specific value. At this time, I'm not going to worry about this. What might be important also is the project type, because otherwise I cannot save the project itself. So I'm going to pick one and click on save. All right. So as you can see, it says that the project status is in progress. It's kind of strange, isn't it? Because typically when I want to create a new project, it's because I'm going to start with it from zero, from nothing, right? From the beginning. So I would like ITM platform to respond to that. And later, when I'm progressing through this life cycle, I will simply need to click on that button and select what is the new status. Okay. So let's address that first. I'm going to go to the configuration area, expand the parameters, and select project parameters. What I'm going to find in here is the aspects from projects that I can modify how they work inside the tool, not the custom fields. Custom fields are somewhere else, but in terms of project parameters, I can handle them in here, right? And what I'm looking for is this project status section. If I go in here, okay, I'm going to see the existing statuses or the different statuses and the connections or the sequence for those statuses. So let's review first what is the default value, right? As you can see from my screen, this is the option selected to be the default. That's why when I created a project, it adopted the in progress value, okay? Maybe that is okay, maybe it is not, right? It's up to you to decide. Probably it would be better to start, I don't know, maybe on initial or maybe on draft. Again, you can define that. And in a few minutes, I'm going to show you how to make all the changes to the workflow. At this time, I just want to show you that if I set a different value, like for example, draft, now I have updated it. Then if I go back to projects and I start a new project, now the current project status is going to be that one, okay? So this is the first step, defining the workflow. You need to identify what is the first step for all your projects. It really doesn't matter at this time what type of project we are going to manage or we are going to create. What matters is that all projects should start on a single common step. It can be things like initial, draft, first step, idea, initiate, anything that that makes sense in terms of your processes. Okay. All right. Now let me cancel this. I don't want to continue this new project. I want to go back and use the one that we just created. So let me go here, right, and open my sample project. And again, how can I change the status? For example, what if I would like to move it to draft, which is now my draft, my default step, right? I need to select the new status. But if I click in here in the dropdown, I'm going to find that I don't see drafting here. I only see closed, on hold, and canceled. What's going on? Well, in addition to the list of statuses, we also have a sequence, okay? And as system admins, you can also control that sequence. So let's see that configuration next. I'm going to go again to the parameters area, project parameters. And now, right, let's try to understand what's going on here. First, with this visual, okay? If I identify the draft, I can see links coming out from draft. So I can move from draft to cancel. I can move from draft to on hold. I can move from draft to initial and backward, right? I can move from draft to in progress. But if I'm in progress, looks like there's no way to go back to draft, okay? Maybe that's okay, maybe it is not, right? And I think it is correct that that actually there's no way to go back from in progress, which would mean that my project is under execution, back to draft, right? It doesn't make sense, right? I can make changes to the planning, but in terms of the project lifecycle, my project is already in progress. But for this time, at this time, and for this case only, right, I would like to go back. So let me show you how you can control the sequence or the possible sequences. What I need to do is select the in progress step, which is the current step for the project I just created. And I'm going to change the values for these destination statuses. As you can see, there are all the things that you can control, and we are going to speak about them all, right? But let's start with this one. I'm going to select in here that I can also move it back, sorry, not to initial, to draft, okay? I'm gonna click on save. Now, if I go back to my project, let's open it, sample project. And now if I want to click here and select a new status, draft is visible now, right? Perfect, so let's move ahead. I'm gonna click on save. And now my project is on draft. Since this was temporary, probably a good next step is gonna be to reset it back. So I cannot move from in progress to draft again. This would be like an exception. That can happen as well, right? So let's modify that once more. From in progress, I'm gonna uncheck draft. All right. So now what goes next? Let's see what are the possible steps for draft, the next steps from draft. I can move it to initial. Maybe initial means that I need to assess the project a little bit further. Maybe I need to complete a business case or something like that. Again, you make the decisions. You define how your workflow is going to work. Okay. Probably it makes sense to put it on hold because we want to stall it. We don't want to do anything about it. To cancel, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I can cancel a project at any time, right? But would it make sense to move it from draft to in progress? Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Let me propose something different. What if initial really means planning, right? So I first create my project under the draft status, and then I can move it to planning. From planning, I can cancel it. Maybe I can put it on hold as well. And I can move it to in progress. I should not be able to close it, right? Because close is very specific. It means that I completed the project, correct? So let's make those changes first. I want to rename initial to planning. So let's do that here. Planning. And all the things that I can select is, for example, the description, right? What is expected to happen in here? The project schedule and other planning values should be completed at this step, okay? And I can change the status icon. The icons really will tell us kind of should tell us kind of the same thing as the name, but through an icon, right? These are not mandatory, but they help you better understand the information on screen. All right. And all right, so now we have planning, right? I can move from draft to planning. Okay. But for planning, I would like to make sure that I can move it to on hold. Again, I think that is valid, not just move it to draft, or maybe I should not move it to draft. You can also decide that, but I want to make sure that I can put it on hold. So I'm going to modify it again and modify the destination statuses. For example, select on hold. All right. So as you can see, at any time, you can go in here and verify that the connection, the links work exactly the way you want. All right. Okay, so now let me show you that I can move my project from draft. Let's move it forward to planning. Okay. Now, what is this about? Authorizers and comments. This is an important aspect of the workflow because sometimes we need to get the authorization from someone. Okay. Right now, this step does not have an authorization. I was free to move it forward, right, or put it on that status. Actually, let me go ahead and save. And at any time, again, I can, if I click on the button, I can go to the history, and ITM platform will display what changes have been applied to the project status. Like it was first on draft, and we move it to planning, right? or it was in progress and we moved it to draft, which was the first, right? It's going to tell us things like who requested this change, when was this request made, who authorized the step, etc., and the comment, of course. All right, so let's assume the following. Let's create a couple of things in here. For example, task 1, task 2, and task 3, right? And maybe I'm gonna manage a very simple project. Okay, so what I would like to do, so let me do it again. Perfect. So now I can do this and do this to connect them together. Okay. All right, so so good. All right, let's save, right? And let's move it forward to execution or in progress. So for that, I need to go back to general, right? And then I need to change the current status to in progress. But guess what? To move it to in progress, I need to get someone's authorization. All right. Let me show you one thing that is going to happen right now. I'm using the full access user, and ITM platform will understand that it is me, and looks like I'm trying to authorize myself. I'm asking myself if I should proceed to in progress. So in this case, this is a very specific scenario. It will automatically approve it, okay? But of course, I can select other authorizers. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. I just want to show you that if I select that option in here, now it's in progress, okay? I can see the history, it's already applied, right? And as you can see, as a difference, it will tell me that it was approved. It was approved by this user. Again, since the requester and the authorizer is the same person, it will not ask for authorization. It needs to be different, okay? So what is the control about that? How can we create our authorization steps? Let me show you that. Let's go to the parameters area again, project parameters, project status, okay? And let's dig a little bit into the in progress step. In here, it says that there are authorizers required, all right? As you can expect from this button in here, I can add different rules. So it is not limited to one single rule. I can create more rules to authorize a project. But right now, the current rule that I have says conditions none. This means this translates to all projects will need to follow this authorization, all of them, right? There are no conditions that we need to check. The model is at least one, right? I can select multiple authorizers, but at least one will need to approve the project, okay? If I select, for example, I don't know, 5, I can also do things like at least 3 out of 5, right? So if I select 5, at least 3 will need to agree, okay? Or I can select all. If I select 5, then the 5 will need to approve, right? If a single one rejects the project, then the step is rejected. All right? How can I select other authorizers? I just need to click on the edit button and select them from my resource list. Okay? I can filter this by position, by department, by category, right? So you can select the proper users, the project members. For example, I can select Victoria and Mayor. Okay. So now every time that I need to move a project into that step, ITM platform will display that I'm going to need to have at least one authorizer from that list, right? So let's see that in action. Let's go to projects, sample project. Let's click on the current status. Oh, yeah. What if I want to go back once more from in progress to planning? I need to anticipate that in a workflow, and currently that is not permitted. So let me fix that real quick. Let's go here, in progress. Let's select also planning. Okay. Again, remember, this might be an exception. All right, let's open the project again. Click here. New status is going to be planning, right? No authorizations are required to move it to planning. Perfect. Let's save changes. But now, if I go back and I want to move it to in progress again, it's going to display the list of authorizers. Okay. Once more, if I click on save, it will automatically approve it. But what if I cannot do that? So let me put it back one more time. Let's move it to planning. Accept, and now I'm going to remove myself from that step. Okay, let's go to planning, project status, in progress. Okay, and well, let's say, no, that's fine. I'm going to remove me from this list. Okay, so it's only Mayor and Victoria. Right. So now let's go back to the project and let's check what happens. If I go to the sample project and I click here and I want to move it to in progress, now it's going to say, well, you are going to need the authorization from any of these authorizers. But since it is not me, okay, now it says something else. The current project status is still planning. I'm waiting for the authorization to move it to in progress, right? And if I hover over there, it's gonna display a tooltip with that information. Okay, so again, you can select who the proper authorizers are going to be for each step. Okay, all right. Now, what about the authorizer? The authorizer, of course, is going to receive a notification about the project that needs to be approved. Okay, but where can they make the decision? That is done through my desktop area, right? An authorizer should be enable the access to this area, my authorizations. If I go in there, it's going to display all the current authorizations. For example, these ones, right? It's telling me that this project, infrastructure management and maintenance, requires my authorization. It cannot continue to the next step, to the requested status, on hold in this case. I need to approve it, right? So how can I make the decision? Well, I basically need to click on the name, right? And it's going to take me to an area where it's going to be very explicit what's going on. This is the name of the project, and I can navigate to that project if I need to, right? The current status is in progress. The on hold status has been requested. Okay. I can enter in here the comments and click on either authorize or reject. What happens if I reject? Well, what happens is that the request is going to be removed. It will display the comments. The current step remains the same, right? Plus, it will notify the project manager about the rejection. And the same goes for authorization. The main difference is if I click on authorize, of course, the new status is the requested status. Okay. Below, I can see the other authorizers if there are any, if there are more authorizers at this stage. Okay. And the history of changes. Okay. All right. What else can you do about authorization? Let's go back to project parameters, project status. Okay. There is another quite important, I think, in terms of rules, right? You can select, as we could see, well, I'm going to need the authorization from any of these two authorizers, but I can create certain conditions, maybe not all the time, correct? For example, let's create a condition for this rule. If I click in there, I can create a filter, right? I can create a condition. For example, I'm gonna apply this condition only if, for example, the top-down budget is greater than $50,000. Okay. So if the top-down budget goes above 50,000, then I'm going to ask for the authorization. What if the top-down budget is lower than 50,000, like 20,000? Then the authorization is not required. What if I would need to have someone else's authorization in case that the top-down budget is less than 50,000? Then I can create a different rule, okay? And as I explained before, I can create many different rules. So I can do something very similar here. Top-down budget is less than $50,000, okay? And then I would need to get, I don't know, David's authorization. Okay, I did not select him. Here we go, right? And the model is going to be at least one or all. Well, again, it depends on the situation. You can create all those conditions, okay? All right. And as you can see, since I'm setting a condition, ITM platform is saying, well, you know what? You have one project, a sample project, which now doesn't need the authorization, or it needs to be created differently, right? So it is asking whether I would like to automatically cancel this request. Let's go ahead and click on OK, right? So let's see what happens. If I go back to the project, open sample project, right? Now my project goes to that requested status because the request has been canceled. If I go here and I open the history, is going to explain what's going on, right? The request, the actual request has been canceled. This is kind of like an exception. We should not do this in actual world, in actual situations, right? We need to create a workflow, right? And make sure that there are no current requests, right? If we are changing the conditions, if we are making changes to that workflow in terms of authorizations, okay? All right, let me explain one last element, which is kind of important about the work. Well, two things about the workflow. Let's go to parameters, project parameters, and project status. These authorizations will not work unless, sorry, wrong click, unless you enable the authorization process. By default, is disabled, right? So if you would like to have these authorizations in progress, right, you need to enable them, right? If you create them inside the steps, nothing will happen unless this check mark has been selected. All right. And another important thing that you might already noticed, but I want to be very explicit about this, the authorization is for the step that I'm trying to enter into, okay? Not to get out from a step. In other words, the authorization is to enter, for example, the in progress step. I can be on hold. I can be on planning. I can be on closed, right? I can be on draft. If I would like to move it to in progress, that's when the authorization should be triggered, when entering the step, not when stepping out, okay? All right, the last concept in this workflow configuration process is this. Let's open draft to start with. There are two extra elements that you need to control. These two. Allow time reporting on projects in this status, yes or no, and displaying portfolio, yes or no. What are they about? The first one, allow time reporting on project in this status. This means that if the project contains assignments, in other words, I already created tasks and I assigned those tasks to team members, okay, whether they should be allowed to enter progress, report time in this step. And usually the recommendation is don't do this unless the step represents execution, right? So you want to be careful about this because sometimes you want to create a full project. You want to create assignments, okay, and you expect team members to enter time, but only when the project has been authorized. So this is actually very, very important when you are defining the authorization, because you don't want to get started. You can prevent team members from entering their actual times until the project has been properly approved, right? So for example, in draft, I would strongly suggest to disable it. We should not be able to enter time during this step, okay? What is the other option for it? Where? It refers to the portfolio. Actually, let me display it again. It says if I would like to display it in portfolio or no. What is that? That if I go back to the management area and I access the portfolio, whether projects under that step should be displayed or not. Like, for example, this one, okay? Should it be visible in the portfolio, yes or no? And for that, we also have this check mark, right? Sometimes we want to just temporarily go over that rule, right? But if I go back to the parameters, project parameters, and I go here and I select draft, I don't want to display it in portfolio. And then I move back to portfolio. Now that project is gone. That project is not present. Okay. If I click in here, right, even if the draft is selected, nothing comes up. Okay. But if I click in here and I apply the filter, now temporary, I can display it. So this is just an extra way of controlling how a list or a large list of projects can be displayed inside a portfolio. Okay. All right. As you can see, this session is quite simple, actually. The complex process is actually a definition that you need to do on your organizations, how the workflow should work for you, and what are the rules to work along through the entire project lifecycle. Most cases, I need to tell you this, most cases, most solutions do not require the authorization aspect. You just want to control the current status. And since ITM platform is very explicit about when and who make the changes to the status, many times it's perfectly fine to allow them freely, right? So it's up to the PM to define what is the current status or the next status. In other cases, again, you want to control that a little bit more closely. And that's when you want to start creating your authorization rules and the connections between steps, between permitted steps. Okay. All right. So that's really what we have prepared for today. While I check if you have questions, I would like you to help us achieving 5 stars on Capterra if you can. So if you can sign into Capterra and make a comment and help us get 5 stars, we are going to appreciate that a lot. Meanwhile, I'm going to check whether we have questions. Okay, looks like this is a very simple training topic. No questions today. So I just need to thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again in another ITM platform training session. Thank you very much and have a great day.